through Whaley. I mentioned a few weeks ago that I've been running outside a lot more these days, with the gym being closed and without the ability to run on the Roanoke Greenway. And a realization comes when you try to run through the neighborhoods of Roanoke that our city is pretty compact. It doesn't take long to get out of your neighborhood, and so if you want to do a long run, say like 8 miles or something, you end up traversing the terrain of many different neighborhoods of the city, especially if you want to stay on a sidewalk for a little extra safety. So Saturday, I completed an 8-mile run. It took me all over the city. I started from Raleigh Court, went across the Memorial Bridge into the West End, got on Patterson Avenue that merged into Campbell. I went down past downtown Roanoke and over into Southeast by the Norfolk Southern rail line. That's where I'm standing now. I'm over here in Southeast, just past the Norfolk Southern location. I then looped around on 13th Street, took a right by the Presbyterian Community Center, and came down Jameson, which becomes Elm, to make my way back home. And here's what I've learned running in those various directions. As you go down Patterson, or those old parts of Campbell, or as you move over into Southeast, you move away from the well-manicured concrete squares of sidewalk, and you move to older brick stretches of sidewalk. There are places where the brick even seems to disappear, and then it reappears once more, discovering small patches of it that still remain among the weeds. Running on these different surfaces is kind of like running back in time to prior iterations in the formation of our city. And this image of old bricks faded and cracking and covered with weeds, forgotten, they reminded me of a biblical image that comes to us first from the 118th Psalm. The Apostle Peter cites it in the book of Acts in one of his sermons. But today I want to read to you from 1 Peter chapter 2, verses 7 through 10. The apostle says, "Come to him, a living stone, though rejected by mortals, yet chosen and precious in God's sight. And like living stones, let yourselves be built into a spiritual house, to be a holy priesthood, to offer spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Jesus Christ. For it stands in Scripture, 'See, I am laying in Zion a stone, a cornerstone, chosen and precious, and whoever believes in him will not be put to shame.' To you then who believe, he is precious. For those who do not believe, the stone that the builders rejected has become the very head of the corner." In construction terms, the cornerstone was the necessary element in creating the right lines of a building so that the final structure would stand secure. Without the cornerstone, everything collapses. Jesus is our cornerstone, but Jesus was rejected, suffering death and the shame of the cross. But we as Christians say that Jesus is the one who gets us lined up to live the ways of God. The thing that looks worthless by so many standards of this world is invaluable to those of us who build our lives on that stone. He is the cornerstone of our spiritual house. Which brings me back to these bricks. One of the gifts of running the neighborhoods of Roanoke is that I get to see parts of the city that I might not go into otherwise. And so I run through the West End and past the West End Center for Youth. I come down Campbell Avenue past the Roanoke Area Ministries, and then I turn right going by the PCC and finally the Roanoke Area Rescue Mission on my way home. I go past a variety of homes, apartments, mini marts, people on their porches, kids playing in their yard to wave to, a person or an encampment of people living right now without a home. These are not the folks that I see on the golf course or wearing their masks responsibly in the Cave Spring Corners Kroger. What I know is that many of these neighborhoods are parts of the city that we've neglected or rejected. By we, I mean those of us with stable jobs and incomes and systems of support to purchase and possess what we believe makes for a good life. By we, I mean we who benefit from the carefully crafted racial hierarchies we cling to. I mean we who concoct visions of who deserves a good life and who's just irresponsible. But in these neighborhoods that the builders have rejected, there are these bricks under the soil. Bricks you aren't going to find in my True Green treated yard with my manicured azaleas and my freshly painted house. There's a history and a story in the life of these stones, and it needs to be listened to. There's a cornerstone on which anyone who claims to follow Jesus must discover if they are to build their spiritual house. What would it take then for each of us to get out of our neighborhoods that the builders accepted and found profitable, and instead, if we sought ways to engage the cornerstone of Christ in the places where the old brick sidewalks remain? This pandemic is our invitation to recall our mission as the royal priesthood, to sanctify the city in acts of charity and in works of justice and advocacy. For these stones are precious in God's sight.